event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates, Badr Abdel Ati, who conveyed to him a letter from his brother, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The Zionist military offensive on the city of Tulkarem and its refugee camp continues for the 82nd consecutive day, including 69 days of intensified aggression on Nur Shams camp, marked by daily raids, detentions, and violent attacks on civilians and properties. And the A3 Plus group at the United Nations Security Council, made up of Algeria, Sierra Leone, Somalia, and Guyana, have called for resolving Libya's electoral law disputes to overcome the political deadlock in the country. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First, in our news, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates, Badr Abdel Ati, who presented or he conveyed to him a letter from his brother, the President of the Arab Democratic Republic of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Speaking at the end of the meeting, the Egyptian Foreign Minister indicated that he had informed the President of the Republic of Egypt's esteem for Algeria's major role in favor of Arab causes and rights, including the Palestinian cause, from its seat at the UN Security Council. More details with our colleague Said Bougazi in this report.
The head of the Egyptian diplomacy said that during this meeting, Arab efforts aimed at countering attempts to liquidate the Palestinian cause were also mentioned. He said in this respect that he had listened to the visions of the President of the Republic regarding Algeria's constant support for the Palestinian people at all levels. He also said that he had informed the President of the Republic of the last sustained efforts made by Egypt in cooperation with Qatar and the United States to put an end to the unjust war of aggression against the resistant Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, and to work to put an end to the suffering of the brotherly Palestinian people through the return to the ceasefire agreement concluded last January 19th. The meeting also made it possible to review the Arab-Muslim plan for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip as soon as a ceasefire agreement is concluded, he added, stressing that he had informed the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, of Egypt's desire to host the Cairo International Conference on Reconstruction with a view to implementing this Arab-Muslim plan. In this respect, he highlighted the convergence of views between Algeria and Egypt on the need to make more efforts to achieve security, stability, and peace in the region in the light of accelerated developments in the Middle East, the Arab world, and the African continent. With regard to bilateral cooperation, Mr. Abdel Ati recalled the visit of the President of the Republic to Egypt last October, welcoming in this regard the content of the talks between the presidents of the two countries, who had reaffirmed the vital and exceptional character of the bilateral relations and the deep historical ties that unite Algeria and Egypt and the two brotherly peoples.
And the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has received the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Badr al-Ati or Abdel Ati, on an official visit to our country. The meeting was an opportunity to review the different axes and dimensions of the relations of brotherhood and cooperation between the two brotherly countries, and to examine the means to give them a new impetus in the context of the preparation of the next deadlines, notably those relating to the Grand Algerian-Egyptian Joint Commission. The dynamic movement of Algerians in France, MODAF, has denounced the many provocations directed at Algeria by the French Minister of Interior, Bruno Retailleau. For several months now, the French Interior Minister has been multiplying his provocations untruths and invectives against Algeria, said Mudaf Secretary General Nasser Khabat in a press release. Should we see this as the mark of an assumed political line or the more insidious sign of a deepening or a creeping submission to the injunctions of the far right and the Franco or the fascosphere, that reactionary Rebula that still dreams of empire and colonial domination, he wondered. The Secretary General of Mudaf was also keen to point out that the silence of members of the Algerian diaspora is not a sign of submission, it is a sign of political maturity that many in the French state apparatus seems to have lost. The Director General of the National Security Services, Ali Badawi, has received his Italian counterpart, Vittorio Pisani, on a visit to Algeria at the head of a high-level delegation with whom he examined ways and means to strengthen security cooperation and coordination, as well as to share expertise in training. The visit of the Director General of the Italian Police to Algeria is part of the security agreement linking the two countries signed in February 2024 by the Minister of Interior, Local Assemblies and Country Planning, and his Italian counterpart aimed at adapting joint coordination and cooperation to new security challenges. This meeting, held at the headquarters of the DGSN, gave rise to exchanges between the two parties focused on the examining of operational mechanisms intended to strengthen security cooperation and coordination in the fight against crime in all its forms, notably cross-border organized crime, as well as on the exchange of experiences and know-how in terms of training. And the president of the Algerian Red Crescent, Ibtissam Hamlawi, has received the representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, in Algeria, Alistair Bolton, according to a statement issued by the CRA. The meeting provided an opportunity to discuss ways and means of strengthening coordination on the ground, developing humanitarian assistance programs, and improving mechanisms for responding to the health, psychological, and social needs of refugees. Workshops devoted to the reality of journalism, the practice of the journalistic profession, its challenges, and its ethics characterized the first regional meeting of Algerian journalists and media professionals, whose proceedings kicked off yesterday in Oran, in western Algeria. The first workshop, entitled The Role of Institutional Communication in Promoting Algeria's Image, brought together communication managers from several institutions, journalists, experts in communication, the media, and international relations, as well as journalism students. And the Minister of Communication, Mohamed Mouziane, has announced in Oran that the drafting of all the regulations governing the profession of journalist is nearing completion. Speaking on Radio Oran, Mohamed Mouziane said that these texts include the special status of journalists, which we have finalized and which is awaiting validation. It defines the rights and duties of journalists, enabling them to work in good conditions and contribute to improving professional performance. Shifting now to the Middle East, where the Zionist military offensive on the city of Tulkarem and its refugee camp continues for the 82nd consecutive day, including 69 days of intensified aggression on Nur Shams camp, marked by daily raids, detentions, and violent attacks on civilians and properties. Wafa correspondent reported that Zionist occupation forces escalated their assaults overnight and an early Friday launched multiple raids across the city, the Tulkarem and Nur Shams refugee camps, and nearby neighborhoods. Troops opened heavy fire, used stun grenades, and stormed homes, terrorizing residents. Saad Boughaz has more details.
In Tulkarem city center, soldiers forced shop owners to close their businesses, detained two young men inside the store in the western neighborhood, and brutally assaulted them. In the southern neighborhood, occupation forces raided the home of Shadai Hussein Al-Auda, a former detainee, beat him severely and detained him. Elsewhere in the Iskan neighborhood, soldiers conducted house-to-house searches, subjected residents to field interrogations, and detained several young men for extended hours, physically assaulting them. Local sources reported that soldiers stole large sums of money and personal belongings from the home of Samir Kharawish, including 35,000 shekels, 6,000 Jordanian dinars, mobile chargers, and bottles of perfume. His son Hani and nephew Rashid Omar Kharawish were also violently beaten. In Nur Shams refugee camp, Zionist forces fired heavily towards homes in the Jabal al-Nasr area, smashed surveillance cameras, and continued efforts to forcibly displace residents in Jabal al-Salihin and Jabal al-Nasr following repeated home raids. So far, the ongoing military assault on Tulkarm and its refugee camps has resulted in the killing of 13 Palestinians, including a child and 2 women, one of whom was 8 months pregnant. Dozens have been injured and detained. The assault has also led to the forcible displacement of 4,000 families from Tulkarm and Nur Shams refugee camp, along with hundreds of residents from the city's northern district.
And at least 22 Palestinians, including 2 children and a woman, were killed on Thursday night in a series of strikes by the Zionist occupation Air Force targeting residential houses in the north and south of the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian news agency's Wafa reported today. And the United Nations has said that the Israeli occupation authorities continue to obstruct the delivery of humanitarian aid in Gaza, noting that no aid has entered the Strip in nearly 2 months now. In a press briefing, the deputy spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Stephanie Tremblay, stressed the need for uninterrupted humanitarian assistance, adding that aid workers are still facing major challenges in carrying out their duties. Let's listen to her.
Humanitarians are finding it increasingly difficult to operate as no aid has entered Gaza for now. We're now in the 7th week of this, and as military operations expand. Meanwhile, OCHA tells us that Israeli authorities continue to deny planned coordinated mission. Today, only 2 out of 6 planned humanitarian movements that were coordinated with the Israeli authorities were facilitated. The remaining 4 were denied, including 1 mission to retrieve fuel from Rafah, which, as you can imagine, is urgently needed.
The A3+ group at the UN Security Council, made up of Algeria, Sierra Leone, Somalia and Guyana, have called for resolving Libya's electoral law disputes to overcome the political deadlock in the country. Speaking on behalf of the A3+ group during a Security Council meeting on the situation in Libya, Algeria's UN envoy Amr Ben Jama urged the advisory committee to present technically sound and politically feasible recommendations. The group described the second phase of municipal elections as a pivotal step towards holding national polls.
These positive political developments mark another milestone in the Libyan-led and Libyan-owned political process and a step forward, holding free and fair national elections that reflect the will of the Libyan people. In this regard, we call on Libyan stakeholders to engage with UNSMIL to resolve the contentious issues related to electoral laws with a view to generating practical solutions that break the ongoing political stalemate in the country.
The A3+ group voiced concern over recent clashes in several Libyan cities on general parties to fully respect the ceasefire agreement and to prioritize the unification of Libya's military and security institutions.
On the security front, the A3+ expresses concern over recent clashes and incidents in various Libyan cities. We urge all parties to fully respect and uphold the 2020 ceasefire agreement and to prioritize the reunification of Libya's security and military institutions.
Meanwhile, the group also called on the special representative of the Secretary General and head of UNSMIL, Hannah Tete, to continue her exchanges with neighboring countries and to support the efforts of the African Union, which led to the signing of the Charter for Peace and National Reconciliation by Libyan stakeholders last February in Addis Ababa. For her part, the UN envoy to Libya, Hannah Tete, has said that forming a transitional government in Libya has not addressed the country's core challenges. During the briefing of the United Nations Security Council, Tete stressed that divided institutions and unilateral actions are deepening the political rift, adding that the absence of a unified budget is worsening the situation. She also noted that the UN mission will act cautiously to help preserve stability. Let's listen to her.
Libya's political crisis persists due to competition for economic resources. Fragmented institutions, unilateral actions which deepen divisions, and lack of a unified budget exacerbates the situation, causing macroeconomic instability characterized by foreign exchange deficits, inflation, and currency depreciation. In parallel to the work of the Advisory Committee, UNSMIL has been engaging economic experts to identify reforms for financial management and sustainability. We will continue consultations to foster progress and are ready to support the key political stakeholders to agree on a unified budget to prevent a looming crisis.
And in Sudan, at least 57 people have been killed in attacks by the Rapid Support Forces RSF in the town of Al-Fashir in Darfur, Western Sudan, the media reported, quoting a medical source. The fighting between the Sudanese army and the RSF, as well as the bombardments by militaries or paramilitaries, took place on Wednesday. On Sunday, the RSF, which has almost total control of Darfur, announced that it had taken the Zamzam camp near Al-Fashir, where more than 500,000 displaced people are living, hit by famine, according to the UN. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for our weekly programs. We'll meet you again tomorrow. Thank you, and stay tuned to Radio Algeria International. Bye-bye.
Our talk.